Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
Just
Nice.
just be careful because a drawing of a dolphin could blow. So
Ah, there it is. That's
be
right.
careful. Be
There.
careful.
Welcome to the Comedians and Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Raymond Maddox. Raymond, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Ray Maddox. A lot of you might know me as Frog the Pirate. Um, I've done voices for some different shows and a couple of different games. I've published my own tabletop, and I do still do audio work, not as my primary, but it's my passion. So uh, I
I love it.
write
I love
my own sketches sometimes, and just kind of try and spread my wings as far as possible, right?
it. Absolutely. When the background doesn't clip it. So, just for everyone to know, when you say your own tabletop, what does that exactly mean?
So a while at the tabletop, like before the days of the digital revolution, when we sat down at a table and played together with our friends in person, tabletop
Okay.
game. So
Ah,
you
so a
know,
board game.
well, we moved from board game because a tabletop can be more inclusive, right? You have games like Warhammer,
Okay.
um, uh, a whole plethora of games where you
Hmm.
don't necessarily have a board. You might have a ruler or
Right.
a
Right.
movement device like Gaslands. They use little templates to move. So,
Got
uh,
it.
but
Awesome. All right. So, you ready to get started, Ray?
yeah, let's have a great day. I
All
appreciate you
right.
having me on today.
Absolutely. Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comment section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me. So, the whole point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So, I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So, Ray, would you agree that you start as a comic and evolve into a comedian?
Yeah, I would kind of go that way, right? Because when I travel way back in time, I think one of my earliest memories of myself being funny was like a very childhood, and I had wrote my first joke, and it was an association joke, and it was you know, um, what do you get when you cross a bat and a doorbell? It was a dingbat, and I just thought it was the greatest thing, and other people did too, and so at a very young age, I kind of made that association of humor can bring joy to other people, right? And
Mm-hmm.
not just be funny for ourselves. And so, uh, but yeah, I would agree definitely. But also to me, a comic is someone who like practices the craft of jokes, right? And a comedian is more like through the humorous lens, like you said. But I think the best performers are kind of like both. Um, it, for me, when I think of, I don't consider myself a comic. I do consider myself a bit of a comedian in life. And it's been more of a survival and expression of myself more than anything.
So, would you say a comedian's naturally funny while the comic has to work at it?
Um, you know, I think everyone, no matter how funny you are, if you're gonna do it like as a profession, it's an incredible amount of work, no matter what direction you take. Whereas to be a funny person is more reactionary, right? I consider myself a funny person, But if I were to sit down and really like try and do like a stand up or perform for a very long period of time, I think that would be a challenge. It would be something I would have to work at.
Hmm.
Whereas others is just kind of reactionary. Like something happens, I have an off comment about it or
Hmm.
something. So I think they go hand in hand, though. If you wanna write and be funny, you do kind of have to see the world through that lens. So I think
Absolutely.
to take a clip from you, it's two sides of a familiar coin, right?
That's right. Here's the coin. So, you ready for the first question, Ray?
Yeah.
All right. So, it's about the role of persona in comedy. So, how much of the comedian's voice is a character versus the real self?
Um, I believe that depends on how genuine you want the performance to be. I think y- anyone can say something funny, but if you don't have some form of connection with it, then at the end of the day, it's just all plastic, right? And you can't really deliver it the way it needs to be delivered. If you don't connect with what's coming out of your mouth or the role that's being presented, it's going to be, in my opinion, impossible for you to be genuine, right? So
So,
I think we all
plastic's
have
not
to.
genuine?
No, absolutely not. It can
Okay.
be a genuine expression of oneself, but to then put on that plastic, no, there's a certain level of disconnection, right? That's why it's plastic. Um, so
So, when you say plastic, you mean like wrapping something and like shrink wrap?
no, when I say plastic, it's uh, like for example, if you were to put on a rubber mask, for
Okay.
example, and someone touched you in that rubber mask, you
Gotcha.
can feel that, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But if we take that dime store uh, mask that's solid plastic and we put that on and someone touches us, we might feel a little bump on the nose, but to actually have a connection of the feeling of someone touching is gone. And so it's very
Got
similar.
it. All right, got it. Okay, so how about punching up versus punching down? So where do comics versus comedians stand on this? And let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval prince become the first comedian by killing the court jester?
Yeah. You know, so uh, punching up versus punching down, I think it really kind of depends on what the performer wishes to express, right? In both cases, there was humor as far as the court gesture situation goes, but two very different directions of humor, right? One was using almost like physical humor, right?
Mhm.
And but also kind of using his power to overplay, and the other was kind of using his position to bring to light things that maybe no one else would be able to say because of time, place, and there's place for certain things. So I think as a comedian, you have a very large luxury to express speech far more openly than, say, um, the average Joe globally. I'm not necessarily in their country, but I just think we allow a certain level of freedom that we might not necessarily extend to anyone else, really. Um, uh, you know,
All
so
right. So speaking of large luxury, is constructive criticizing of dead people considered punching down?
um, w- that's kind of a presentation situation too, right? Uh, uh, we can talk humorously about dead people and bring them up also at the same time. But we could also talk humorously about a dead person and slam them to the ground. So once again, I kind of feel like that boils down to performer's responsibility and what is it that they're wishing to express. So, like for example, George Carlin used his platform to express his lifelong distaste with religion a lot of times, his lifelong distaste with uh, um, society, with government. I mean, like you go back to even rules of being a childhood. It's like he had a whole segment of rules. And the funny things that he would say in his head that he knew would get him, squashed if he like ever said them out loud, right? But
Hmm.
uh, you know, so I think we really just have that ability to kind of step beyond the average person again. But it's a responsibility thing, and what is the artist wishing to say? So,
Exactly. So how about how they would say it as a cultural translation of comedy, right? So how do
right,
jokes that work in one
exactly.
country bomb in another?
Um, well, or vice versa, right? Look, like the Finnish community, Ismo. Dude, his whole thing is about the cultural differences, right? And bringing those things that when he's in America through his lens of being a Finnish person are just absolutely hilarious to him, or also like cultural indifferences that have led to maybe very embarrassing situations for him. Um, so I think it's really kind of it's a great question, honestly.
Well, then let's keep going. So how does the silence when your joke doesn't land hurt? Physically, emotionally, morally, or spiritually?
Um, well, I think that would be dependent upon what did I do to kind of put my foot in the mouth, right?
Hmm.
In what way did I overextend myself? If it was like maybe not necessarily putting my foot in my mouth, maybe for example, I extended a belief that I really felt adamantly about, and maybe through my experience of life, just really felt something. I don't know. Say I thought dolphins should wear tutus my entire life, and then one day, I was talking to someone else, and like, dude, to put clothes on a sea animal is mean, right? Until
So
I've had that.
the real one or the animated one? Are we gonna like shoot it with a dart and make that
No,
thing
no,
loud?
like animate a dolphin with a tutu would be great. Uh, yeah,
Beady
I
beady
see
beady.
nothing wrong with an animated dolphin with a tutu. I think that'd be hilarious.
It's so not wrong that I'm drawing a picture so I have a note so I can make one.
Hey, uh, you know, um, just
Nice.
just be careful because a drawing of a dolphin could blow. So
Ah, there it is. That's
be
right.
careful. Be
There.
careful.
So, very important question, Ray. Advertising and self-promotion. Who
Mm.
advertises themselves more, the comic, the comedian, or the magician? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast and get the message out today. See you soon.
Wow. I noticed you added that last part when I was watching recently, and the magician side. I think if you want to be successful in anything, you have to be a proponent for yourself, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
constantly advertise yourself, and I don't necessarily mean calling a radio station. I mean, if you're going to be a successful person, you have to constantly kind of to a degree advertise yourself, right? You have to put yourself out there
Mm-hmm.
constantly, and you have to be willing to lose constantly, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's so any in particular artist especially that's all we do all day is self promote, and when you're lucky enough for someone to come along and notice, it's the world, right?
Hmm.
Even if it's, the little kid who just happens to be walking his dog and they just think that your street art or whatever is the most incredible thing they've ever seen. I think more than anything, it's just constantly self-promoting and praying, right? Or hoping that someone's like, wow, there's something here, and I want somebody else to see this or hear this or play this or whatever. But even after
All
that
right.
happens, it's constant self-promotion.
All right. So then, Ray, what don't you want me to know about you?
Oh, let's see. What don't I want you to know about me? I don't want you to know how how much I have had to overcome.
Okay. Don't want to play the
Yeah.
victim.
I did. Um, I I'm going to take a stroke out of a young chapter in my life. And I will reveal something. And so at a young age, I've been through a lot. I'm not even I don't pull punches. And I was discussing my life one day, and I ended up getting in a fight with one of my very best friends because he decided I was a liar.
Ah,
And and I think that had a still to this day kind of has an effect on me to where I just don't like to don't like to talk. Somebody else brings it up, dude. I'll talk about it all day.
right.
But I just kind of prefer to focus on what I can do or today, and not the
Yeah.
whole. Right? Let's focus on today's chapter. That's enough. Not the whole book. You can read that after I'm gone, man.
Ah,
You know.
fair enough. Fair enough. All right. I
uh,
like it.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's the way when we talk about censorship and offense, that's kind of an example. So does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point, like a magician?
I think in a lot of ways a comic kind of steers into it. Not all of them, some of them are intentionally stay away from that sort of humor.
Hmm.
But I think in some sort of way, like you have to kind of be combative to be a comic. Like it's a matter of definition, right? Like we live in a physical universe, and for anything to be perceived, we need contrast. So like you couldn't describe heat without the lack of heat, which is kind of what we call cold, or light without the lack of light, which is what we call shadow, right? So we need, you know, we need that. So
All right. So then who survives better in the cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
um, I think no one survives a cancel culture, right? That's the very definition of it. Once you kind of stick your foot in that, you're hello, cancel culture. It's an entire society about removal and
Right.
and and distaste and in my opinion, jealousy and lashing out, and I don't agree with it. I don't like it. So I just kind of leave it out of my mouth, right?
Absolutely. Well, then speaking of, how about when does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
Mm. Um, I think the moment they decide that they want to express themselves and their true ideas and their true selves is the moment that right because no matter what you're expressing a philosophy unless you're just being silly, right? If you're
Usually,
expressing
if
your
it's
ideas,
incoherent.
yeah, well, I mean, if you want anything of coherency, right, like you're gonna have to, paint that in a certain way. So
All right. So speaking of coherence, is truth treasure in heaven?
absolutely,
All right.
absolutely, and I don't care what your version of heaven is. Um, I know what my version is. I believe that there's a supreme creator of pure love, and for him to make himself known to us, he has to be apart from us and let us experience what that's like too. And if you, for example, look at the Bible, and the Bible says that the angels look to humanity for understanding of God. Well, the reason is because they've never had that contrast that we were just discussing, right?
Hmm.
They've never been apart from the
Yeah.
being of pure, inseparable love. And so for them to understand pure, inseparable love, they have to watch us. And that's what the whole biblical exchange is, right? People ask, well, why do angels do all this if they don't get anything out of it? They absolutely get everything out of it, because
They learn
through,
by proxy, right? It's like
yeah,
watching a YouTube
exactly.
channel on how to.
Exactly. It's like a DIY channel for them or something that learn
Yeah.
to learn how to come to appreciate their creator in all his glory. They have to do it through understanding us. So
Right. So we're a bunch of YouTube characters for them. So
that's literally it.
yeah.
It's kind of like the Truman Show, right? And
Yeah.
even dude, if you go all the way back to like Greek times, in our earliest writings, there were plays on that. The whole exchanges was all about the the gods at that time taking a keen interest in us, and of course maybe it was a little more cruel and divided back in the day. But at the end of the day, we were still talking about the same thing: is that creators were watching us for understanding of things, and a lot of times it was understanding of themselves, right? Um, I think
Yeah.
I think um, God loves us so much because um, like those times when we love Him back, right? So
100%. That's why I asked the question. So let's go deeper. So Ray, are you ready to enter the multiverse?
I love the multiverse.
All right. So
Uh,
board game Zoomcast, play versus performance. So you have to choose an avatar. So if comedy were a board game Zoomcast,
mhm.
are you competing as the colorist avatar, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist avatar, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
Wow, that's see now I've been raking this question if it got asked, and it's very challenging for me because in gaming I think I usually play a game master, right? Because for me, when I game, the biggest and most enjoyable thing for me is um, to to bring a world to life, right? And let others and bring their own parts to that and see how someone else like paints into this thing that I've created. I think that's the most magical thing for me. So when you ask about the avatars, it's very difficult because I'll play like what we call an NPC, a non-player character, and I have a lot of fun for it. But what actually brought me the joy was the creation of the NPC for everyone to enjoy. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
So then does comedy work better when it's painted vividly or when it's orchestrated sonically?
you have to have both.
Okay.
Um, they go hand in hand. Even if it's extremely short, we need a vivid something to get a response. That's what comedy is.
Hmm.
It's hitting the old funny bone. For example, to me, one of the most incredible pieces of comedy history is the Three Stooges. Um, most people don't realize that that show started as a psychology ex experiment between the doctors. The Stooges were all psychologists, and it was an expose delve into why is it that humans have a humor response when we see pain?
Mm.
And that is literally what started that show. I can't walk away from this podcast without bringing that up, and I think this kind of where it fits in. So
I like it. It makes sense. We want to see a real raw surprise, right? Pain is always
right,
surprise.
well, yeah, and I'm just using that for one example, right? But
But is it true, right? Is it an empirical fact that every
not
time you
necessarily.
experience pain? No? You're not always
Not,
surprised by pain? Doesn't it always
uh,
catch you off guard?
well, I was recently in a motorcycle wreck, and
Okay.
I've been riding for what 36 years, and so that was a pain that no, I was not surprised. I saw the vehicle had made a bad choice, and
Of course.
there
It's just,
was and that was not funny.
no,
So
no, of course. The when I say the funny part with the surprise, it's in the present moment, the pain is
yeah,
surprise,
um,
right?
yeah,
Especially if
I
it's
think it's
chronic pain. You're like, why is it
yeah,
still hurt?
um, yeah. So no, I
Right?
think I think that to actually cut back into your real question is any time we do any form of art, it's to elicit a response,
Right.
even if it's only from ourselves, even if it's only a response to be calm or whatever it is, right? Um, the act of creation is with purpose.
Okay. So, uh, Danny, here on the Comedians in Elevator, I mean, Danny, I said Ray. What I'm going to say is that we have a tradition where a previous guest asks a question for the next guest.
Right.
And the previous guest was Danny Schneibel. And his question for you, Ray, is if you could design your own comedy venue, what would it look like?
Oh, wow. Okay. Um, I think for me, I would I would design something uh, very comfortable that made you kind of just want to be around, right? Just kind of very comfortable places to sit. I think there's a when I look at the world of comedy presentation, I think we have too much focus on the party atmosphere when I look at clubs. I think maybe there's a lot of really great comedians out there that just can't be in those situations, and so I think it'd be really nice to see just a comfortable venue to where like maybe before the show you and your family had a nice meal, and maybe there's an area where your little one can play not far off from you, and it's not a big deal. I think I'd like to maybe see a return to kind of a familial environment.
Okay.
Um,
So, like multiple spaces. So you have different things going on under
uh,
one roof.
I think I'm gonna plug the city that there's a city of Portland, Texas, has recently done Fifth and Elm, I believe is what it's called. If you look at that, it's the exact thing that I'm talking about. It's just a
Okay.
really, it's just a place where like, man, it's like I would, I relax here, and then you walk upstairs, it's like, wow, I would bring someone here for a business meeting. And you go outside and there's a live stage in an area that's like, dude, I would kind of party over there. But uh, more importantly, is it just kind of a more a communal thing, less focus on let's slam a bunch of drinks and whatever, right?
Right.
Just I'm not saying
The
that
the
every
precious
club's like that, but
well,
yeah.
yeah, the comedy is depressive in some respects, so you can just get the
So
spirits high, right?
yeah,
So
well,
that's
to
one way
each
to
their
look at
own
it.
at times, right? In moderation, and you'll never catch a judgment from me. That's not my job. I just live here.
Fair enough. Raking the grass. So
That's it.
here, so last question: legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics' tight five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
Mm, wow. Um, I guess that kind of depends on how deeply do we affect people, right? Um,
Hmm.
or Robin Williams, like for example, um, will you know go down in history, in my opinion. Jack Lemmon, it's got Red Fox. There's just names out there that they just they did it, right? We won't forget them. It's just because they've become so entwined with culture.
Mm-hmm.
So,
All right.
they all
Awesome.
did it differently. So yeah.
They did. So, Ray, where can everybody find you online?
Oh, well, there's if you want to check out some shows, I'm a part of Sin Saigon Productions. You can go to frogdapirate.com, which would be a DA, not a THE. So frog, ribbit, duh, DA, and pirate, yar. Find me on Discord. You can find me on IMDb. You can find me on LinkedIn, like you did. I'm, just I just ask around. I'm out there, and I'll be
All
happy
right.
to, hang out, spend time, talk, do a show, whatever. Just reach out. We'll do something.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Ray, thank you so much for being my guest. And for everyone, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.
Absolutely, Kenan. Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
If you're interested in too much information like in the network state or Mantipus the chicken shit, check out this video. Or is it this one right here? Well, either way. Lizard.